Did somebody check the time? Because it's time for hints, tips, and tricks. It's time for homework advice. All right, let's take a look at this week's homework. In this week's homework, you are tasked with reading in a file. And that file has a bunch of U.S. senators in it. And you will input a state, like NY or PA or CT, and then it will output the senators in that state. All right? So one of the first things we need to do is get the senators file, and this code here will do that. And you can just run this code, and it will grab the file off the internet, and then you should have a U.S. senators file here. Okay, and you look at this file and you think to yourself, wow, how am I going to make any sense out of this file? Well, again, we're going to read in this file, and then rather than treat it like one big fat ugly string, we are going to deserialize it into a Python object, and then that way we can traverse the file with code, because this will be a list, and then each item in the list will be a dictionary. And if you look through this dictionary here, you'll see that it has, senator from Idaho in here, and then gender male, and it has their last name in here. So there's all sorts of keys and values in here that we can pull out based on this dictionary. Now, you don't know where the dictionary begins and ends. It's a hot mess. But the point of the exercise is very much learning how to deal with complicated JSON data like this in Python. That's really the point of the exercise. Okay, you're going to see that the code is rather simple, and the gist and the point of the code is to figure out how to wrestle this 800-pound gorilla that is taking this complicated JSON data, JavaScript object notation data, and turning it into a Python object through deserialization using the JSON library. Okay? So let me talk about this code here that I gave you. This code, this request get, you're going to learn this next week. It goes out to the internet. It goes to this URL, which if I take this URL and I copy it into a browser, I will see the JSON data in my browser. And this JSON data in the browser is kind of cool. But you know what I would like? I would like this in Python. So how do I get this JSON data in Python? Well, this get will retrieve it as a response. And then what you can do is open up a file for writing, and then take that response that you got and dump it to a file in JSON format. That's what this line of code does. Okay. And the get command gets the data, and then the JSON function off the get command will take the text from the output and again deserialize it into a Python object. So this get JSON is the same as doing a JSON loads, which reads it from the file. Okay, and that's what we saw in the small group activity that we did this week. Okay, now you can choose whether or not you want to use IPython Interact here, or you can just make a decision and say, nah, I'm not going to do IPython Interact this week. It's really up to you. Okay, I think I would consider adding the IPython Interact being the advanced version, because what you want to do in that is you would want a drop down of all the states. Okay, and you can get that drop down of states by parsing through this file here, this JSON file. Okay, so let's again think about the problem. The problem, let's think about it in terms of input, process, output. So the input of this program is going to be a US state as 2-character code. For example, you might input CA for California, or NY for New York, or IL for Illinois. Okay, easy enough. what is it going to output? It's going to output the senators, the 2 U.S. senators, assuming there's 2, from that state. Specifically, if we look through the sample above, I want their name, their title, their party, their phone number, their website, and their contact information. So I want their name, title, party, phone number, website, contact info. I'm going to have to find these in the JSON. So if I go back over here and I look at the very first person in this list, it's a senior senator from Idaho. And their party is a Republican Party. And their, let's see here. Here's their website. All right, and then this is their name. Oh, here's their website down here. And here's their phone number. So all these keys are in there. They're all in there. You just have to figure out how to fetch the key out of all of this. Okay, and fundamentally that is the goal of this assignment and what makes it so difficult, right? And I'm torn between how much to show you here, because I could easily give away the farm just by, showing you 1 or 2 of these. But I will demonstrate how to fetch some of these keys out, just not all of them. Okay. So let's think through our algorithm here. First of all, we have to get the senators into a Python list, right? So I can just say, load U.S. senators JSON into a Python list. Now, there's a lot of work that needs to be done there. I might want to write that as a function. Okay? Now, when I got them in a list, what do I need to do? Well, first thing I need to do is I got to input a state, like, New York or PA, right? And then, now that I've got this list, I need to loop through the list looking for senators in New York, senators in PA, right? So for each senator in the list, I need to check if the senator's state equals the input state, New York, PA, whatever I input. Don't hard code this. I saw this last week. People were hard coding like New York. Don't do that. Rely on your input, right? Whatever you input, that's what's going to make it do its thing. And then what are we going to do if that senator's state is the input state? Well, we're going to then print out their name, title, party, phone number, website, contact. You're going to print all that. So that's basically the whole algorithm. It's 5 steps. It's really, really simple. The thing that's going to really, really tax you is figuring out how to retrieve things from the dictionary. Okay? And again, I will give you a strategy on how to do that. I won't write this whole thing. You will have to do the loading. Although I may show you that, but you might want to write it as a function, and then I'm going to show you how to fetch something out of the dictionary, and then the rest is going to be up to you. Okay, and that's as much of a hint as I can give you, because this is really kind of a very short assignment by comparison. But there'll be a lot of thinking going on in this assignment. Okay, so we have this file, U.S. Senators JSON, right? So let's first do step 1. Let's load this file into a Python list, right? So we're going to load file into list. So we're going to import JSON. We're going to use JSON to do our deserializing, okay, by using the loads command. Okay, we're going to use loads, JSON loads. So we're going to say with open, and then the file name is U.S. Senators JSON. And we are going to open that for a reading as, I don't know, call it R. And now, normally you just say R read, right? And that gives you a string. So there's two ways that I can turn this into a Python object. Let me just show you a couple things first and foremost. You know, since you're here, you might as well learn something, right? So I'm going to do the usual. Okay, and then I'm going to come down here and say, hey, what is the data type of contents? And it's going to say it's a string, right? And then if I were to look at contents, it's the JSON data, but it's a big, fat, ugly string. So now I have to do the parsing myself. I can't loop over this or anything like that. It's just I have to slice it. Yuck. Right? We don't want to do that. We want to leverage what Python can do for us with JSON data, which is add the structure implicitly. So the way that we do that is we call JSON load, and then we pass in the file handle. And when we do that, now the type, oh, I got to run it again here. With open. Oh, it's not F, it's R, you knucklehead. Okay. Now it says it's a list. See that? And if I just print it out, you'll see that now it has a bracket in front of it. Then that means it's a Python list. And the first item in the list is a curly brace, which is a Python dictionary. This is not a string anymore. It's a list. So if I said contents 5, that's the 5th senator. And that happens to be Senator Charles Schumer from New York. See that? So that's the fifth senator. Now, that's one way you can load it. Another way you can load it is if you don't want to load it through the file handle, you can read in the entire contents. You can say, you know, contents is r.read, and then you can say senators is going to be JSON load s contents. So load s deserializes a string into a Python object. Does the same thing. This line down here, same thing as these two lines here. Except, you know, this says contents. This should say senators. Now they're the same. It's just one is in 2 steps and the other is in 1 step. Fundamentally, that is the difference between the two. Okay, see that? So this one says read all contents into a string, then take that string and deserialize it, assume it's JSON, and deserialize it into a Python object. Okay, that's what this does. All right. This command here does it all in 1 step. It says using the file handle, okay, take that file handle and read in everything from the file handle and then deserialize it into a Python object. Okay, either one works. Whatever is your preference, it's fine by me. Okay, now let's talk about navigating this structure down here, right? These are all keys: caucus, Congress numbers, current, description, right? So if I went through and said Senators 5 description, I will get just this. Let's see. See that? Okay. Let's do another one. Let's get the Democratic Party. Nah, that's too easy. Let's get down here. It says person, and then person ends up being another dictionary, right? So if I come up here and say senators person, I get another dictionary, and then maybe I want to get their first name. right? Chuck. So I can go to nickname. Nickname. Chuck. See how I got that? You're just walking through the Python structure until you get the thing you want. Go down here. All right, so let's find it here. Senator from Vermont. Oh, I can't find the one that was just in, but let's just look at here. So here's, it says person, nickname, Chuck. See that? Okay. It's not the same Chuck, but you get the idea. So let's go back to the algorithm, right? So now that you know how to take one senator out of the list, think about what happens when you use a for loop, right? So the list is senators, and you're going to get one senator. Then you got to find that senator's state. That's going to be a Python key in here somewhere. So you'll have to figure out where their state is in here, NY. Now I see it here, but there it is right there. Oh, see? Okay, and then does that NY match up with whatever you inputted? PA, NY, US, whatever. And then if it does, and only when it does, print out their name, which is a key, print out their title, which is another dictionary key, print out their party, political party, which is another dictionary key, phone, website, contact. Should be pretty easy, okay, to do that. Now let's talk about some wrinkles. So that's 1.0. Get it working, get it so that you can input, you just come down here, input, I don't know, state, input, enter a state. And you enter, a state code. Oops, I got too many apostrophes in there. New York, and then it does its thing, okay? You run it again, PA, and then it does its thing, okay? Now, let's talk about making it look a little better, because up here you see I'm using this big header here, right? So we've done this before. These are just like prints down here. But this uses a header. So to print out the header, so this is the advanced stuff. Get the simple stuff working, feel good about yourself, and then if you really want to start challenging yourself, let's think about how we can jazz it up, right? So one way to jazz it up is printing out those headers. So that is with IPython display. So from IPython display, import display in HTML, right? And then you can say display HTML, and then we can print out as a heading 1, whatever the senator name is. So I don't know. Let's just do an F string. I'm going to just say senator name. That's some key I pulled out, right? And it's going to be, I don't know. Let's just grab this. Let's grab this. I pull this key out, right? And then somewhere in here, I say senator name. And I use my H1s. I need to put an F in front of there, you knucklehead. There you go. Senator Charles Chuck Grassley from Iowa. Right? And then down here, I can display their website if I want, right? I just got to fetch the right keys. Okay, so that's one challenge. The other challenge that you might want to rise up and do is get a drop down of states. You might want to get a drop down of states. This is going to proceed very similarly to last week's example where we went through FudgeMart and just extracted out the individual product categories, product departments, like hardware, electronics, etc. What you want to do, I'll give you an algorithm you can follow if you're interested in trying this, and then you can figure it out for yourself. You want to make a list of states. So state list is an empty list. And then you want to say for state, for senator in list of senators. You know, if that senator's state is in the state list, I guess I would say is not in state list, then append state to state list. Okay, and this algorithm here will return, when it's done, a list of all the states, because it'll go through and say, oh, this Senator Grassley from Iowa, oh, Iowa's not in the state list, add it. The next senator from Iowa, it's going to be like, well, I already got that, don't add it. Then it moves on and grabs Senator Schumer from New York, adds New York, etc. Okay? And then when you're all done, you just want to call sort on the state list. So you want to call state list sort state list. You do that, you will have a nice juicy algorithm that you can follow that will create your drop-down state list. Okay? Then it becomes a matter of just putting it all together. So putting it all together is going to look like this, because I think you're still having trouble putting it all together. Again, this is only for those of you that really want to practice your IPython interact. So you will do something like this. From IPython widgets, import interact manual. Okay. Maybe this time you don't want to use interact manual. You just want to, when you pick the state, it shows the output. Maybe you want to do that. That's just regular interact. I'll show you this one. So then the first thing you're going to do is you're going to load the senators into a list, right? That's this step up here. You're going to do that first. Then after you do that, you are going to, the next thing you're going to do is you need to create the state list from senators list. And that's this algorithm up here. Sort, this should say sort. That's this algorithm up here. Then, after you do that, you will have a state list, something like this, right? You'll have a state list that'll be something. You know, you're not going to manually make this. It's going to be generated in code, but it will look something like this. NY, right? PA, you know, TX for Texas. It's going to look like that, right? This is just an example. And then you're going to do this. You're going to say interact, and then state, one state from the state list. And then I will define my function, and that will take a state as input. And then what am I going to do with that function? I am going to do steps 2, 3, 4, and 5 here. I don't need to do my input anymore. This goes away because what's doing the input? The interact does the input, right? So down here, I'm just going to do a print so you can see what happens. Print, you know, you selected. And then this is the state you selected, just so you can see how this works, right? And I got a little boo-boo here. I got to put a equal sign here, you knucklehead. There we go. So it says you selected New York, you selected PA. See that? When you run interact without manual, there's no button. As soon as you pick the drop down, it runs this code down here. This code down here should not just print the state. What it should be doing is it should do this code down here. Which I will gladly copy down here and paste it, right? You should be doing steps 3, 4, and 5, right? And so then that completes the entire program. This is what the entire program is going to look like. You pretty much have to take these and put the right code there. And then this goes away. because state list is what you're going to get back from doing this. Okay, which is this algorithm up here. And then here's your interact, and then this is going to be the input, which is going to have all 50 states. Then whenever you select a state, it is going to magically run this code down here, which will loop over all the senators, find the matching state, and then print the info about the senators. And then that's it. You got the program all working. And that's the gist of it. And the hard part, again, is just figuring out how to access the things out of this JSON file. And the start is to put it into a Python list of dictionary and then use Python to find the stuff rather than to parse this yourself. That's the hard way to do it. Okay? You don't have to do the interact if you don't want. You can just do it this way, but I figured some of you might want to, and so I thought I would give you some strategy on how to do that. I think this should be a pretty short and simple homework if you are understanding how to do dictionaries. That's what it's really all about. Okay? All right, that's this week's homework advice. I hope you found it useful. Goodbye now.